welcome on stage Daniel. He's the founder and CEO of Tink. And Albrecht, he's the Managing Director of Central Europe, the face of Europe of Visa. Great to have you here. And I was thinking a bit, so we were talking about it, and I realized that, you know, most of us, we think when we talk about credit cards or Visa, we just think about a credit card. And interesting that you buy companies like this, that you work a lot with fintechs. So maybe we start a bit, that you tell us a bit, what does Visa do next to credit cards? Is there another business next to it?
Happy to. Yeah. Visa has never been just a credit card company. As a matter of fact, we have globally, of our 4.2 billion cards issued, the majority are debit cards, firstly. But beyond that, we are a payment technology company. We work with acquirers, issuers, PSPs globally. And our mission is to be the best way to pay and be paid, across all kind of payment tools, merchant solutions, wallets, domestic schemes, and so on. And that probably explains partially also why we're sitting here with Tink.
Okay, thank you. Daniel, so Tink, I mean, in our audience here today, many of you probably have heard about Tink. I would say in this audience too, but if you go out on OMR, if you tell them about Tink, probably most of the people that don't know it, maybe they heard about Exit, so that stays in the mind. But let us know what you do exactly.
Happy to do a little bit of background. So thank you so much for having us. Great to be here. So Tink is an open banking platform where we built a connection layer to some 4,000 banks across Europe to do account aggregation and payment initiation. And on top of that infrastructure, we have two business verticals, one being payments, where we serve the likes of Adyen and Revolut with PIS services. We process some 5 million transactions per month. And then we have our data business, which we call banking and lending, where we help large financial institutions, but also online lenders to do better financial credit decisions. But also to help their customers get more digitally engaged and understand their finances and get digital advisory and so on.
I mean, it's totally different businesses, actually. How does it actually fit? How does Tink fit into your business, Albrecht?
I would say perfectly well. We share the same vision, if you want. We want businesses to thrive. We want many of the fintechs here to thrive. We want consumers to have better control of their finances and help them on their financial lives. So there's a lot of common solutions, and we already collaborate in many areas. As Daniel said, the collaboration is going on massively already and across whole Europe. So the technology competence of Tink, a great team of Tink, which we are very, very happy to have in the Visa family, and the global ambition of Tink perfectly match with Visa, because we can contribute our resilient and secure systems, our global reach. We can have, of course, synergies on the customer side, and so on and so forth. Perfect fit.
So by looking at the industry, one could say, I mean, Visa provides the rails for credit cards and rails for processing payments. And Tink also provides rails, but it's also a bit of a competitive, I mean, it's a competitive edge. And in the break, actually, we were talking to one of your ex-colleagues, and I was asking him, what kind of question would you ask them? And he said, actually, so I asked this to you now, Daniel, because he said to me, ask the question, did Visa actually want to kill Tink? And that was the reason why they paid so much money for this? Or what would you say, Daniel?
Well, they haven't fired me yet, but maybe that's only because I do so much damage to the business. So they say, well, we better keep him, and he's going to destroy it on his own. No, I think that it would be probably the worst case scenario for Visa if open banking is actually, you know, as it's progressing to be a global payment network next to, of course, cards and other type of payments. And I think that, I mean, most of these plus 10 years that we've been running this business, we've not been in the limelight, but rather the opposite. Hard to raise funds, struggled with everything from regulations to customers to whatnot. But the last few years before the exit, we actually had the opportunity to be approached by some of the most well-known names in this industry who said, hey, we would want to partner, we would want to acquire Tink. And me and Fredrik, we always evaluated this with the exact same lens. Is a partnership or an acquisition going to increase the likelihood of us driving adoption and trade-basing open banking globally? And the answer was always no, it's not gonna. But with Visa, that was different because we met both a very determined team, but coming back to your question, a team that wanted to win, who said, we believe in open banking, we want to win it and trailblaze it on a global scale. And I think also the perks about Visa is that first, you're in basically every market in the world. One of the most trusted brands across all categories. But also, I think that every financial institution or payment company in the world that I eventually want to sell my services to is an existing customer with Visa. So that was the reason why we've decided that this was a perfect match. And jokes aside, the setup that we have now, still being an independent company owned by Visa, but we run it still. But getting all the perks of brand and reach and commercial relationships is a perfect setup for us.
Yeah, that was actually my thinking. How does it work? I mean, as a startup, probably a lot of startups are really afraid of working together with in corporate structures because we are always afraid that the corporate comes in and they destroy culture. So it's not, well, you're still there, but probably earn out. Sometime you will also leave, probably. But how do you see that actually? How does it fit together, the startup world with the corporate world?
Well, you never know these things because you have very nice and shiny dinners and coffees and everything in this process. And then it's always like the moment of truth when you hand over the keys and see what's going to happen now. Have you seen the show The Office?
Yes.
Where he always trying to claim that he's assistant regional manager, but he's really assistant to the regional manager. You never know what you're going to be after an acquisition. But we're actually very happy that Albrecht and the team, they actually told us the truth. We are an independent company trying to get the most out of the Visa infrastructure.
Yeah, but that's always good to hear.
Just to add on this, I mean, our cultures match very well. We sometimes refer to Visa as the oldest fintech in the world because we are not a credit card company, we're a fintech company. So I find that the values of our teams, the way how we collaborate, intuitively we matched from the first moment on. And we, in the opposite, are very, very happy to have the leading European open banking platform as part of our family. So all of these cliches really do not work. And I've just visited Daniel in Stockholm and vice versa. So this is really a great collegiate partnership.
How often do you see each other? Is it twice a year or?
Well, I see the team yesterday in Munich, for example. You know that Fintecsystems is one of the acquisitions of Tink. So the teams collaborate on a daily basis, and sometimes we meet frequently, sometimes we don't meet for 3 months, so that depends on the senior management level, of course.
So you also need this kind of mindset. You have more, how many actually fintechs do you work with in Europe?
Globally, we work with 400 fintechs. Fintechs are, for us, absolutely key. Many of our fintech clients and partners are actually here at this event because fintechs really help us also develop our vision of innovation in the payment space, and we also, together with fintechs, work with our other customers, banks, to create win-win partnerships. To give one example, Bitpanda presented today. It's a client of us, and they have a very good regulated platform, which is highly respected, and so jointly, Visa and Bitpanda can offer the white label solutions of Bitpanda to customers. So fintechs are really very, very important for Visa, and we are open for business.
What did you...
Just short comment on the interaction part. I think that there's one thing that I'll potentially be scared of, and we talk about it, that we potentially could be hugged to death. That's the only the risk with the Visa-Tink relationship, because Visa is just so enormous, global thousands, tens of thousands of employees, and Tink is 600 people. So if you all give us one hug, we're going to be dead by the end of the day.
Yes, have to be careful.
Limited hugging, promised.
Well, when was it? Was in 2021, was it? The exit?
We signed a deal 21, yes.
Okay. Do you think that would have been possible today, in these years?
I mean, you see very few strategic deals happening at all. So you need, in order for these things to happen, you need buyers and sellers to have kind of alignment on price and market price. And when things are going up or things are going down, that's hard to find. So you see very few of them right now. So no, probably not. Majority of besides me and Fredrik, of Tink owners would be venture capital firms. And I think that they would say, hey, this is not the time to sell. We have to wait for another 5 years. So maybe a deal would have happened 5 years instead from now, not now.
How do you see the market at the moment, Albrecht?
Well, it's tough times. We have tough times in the world right now. So, of course, fintechs suffer from this as well. And many investors, of course, look at the bottom line more carefully than a couple of years ago, try to consolidate. There's some consolidation going on in the market. So it's not easy for many players. At the same time, category leaders like Tink or other important names might profit from this development. And I think a certain up and down is not so surprising in this industry. It will always be the case. In the mid and long term, I'm very, very bullish for fintechs because I think they're important to help economies. They're important to increase consumer orientation, innovation. So hang in there if you have tough times would be my advice.
What would you advise to the young fintech founders? What would you tell them what they should do, Daniel?
I mean, you need to play you're not isolated island, obviously, as a fintech. You need to play the set of cards that you've been given but also kind of embrace what's around you. I mean, Tink was founded in a time when there was very little money around. It was hard to raise money, and you need to be very careful about it. Some point during that journey, capital was cheaper and easier to access, meaning that more companies could price differently, invest more in product, more in global expansion. And then you need to make sound decisions on, okay, how do I take advantage of this new environment, whether it's up or whether it's down. And you need to adjust your cost structure, investment level in accordance, both up and down. And I guess the struggle for fintechs is that there are so many moving pieces to start with. And then also, if that macro trend is changing rapidly as well, that becomes a problem. And you might not be able to take down investment level as fast as you can.
I mean, it took you 10 years also. You said you founded it 10 years ago. It's an interesting journey because, I mean, we are here at Finance Forward. We also want to talk about the industry itself, yeah? So when we see what Tink is doing, if we go back 10 years, because I was, this morning, I was asking a friend, said, how did this actually all started? Because I remember I just saw also some people here from Sofortüberweisung. So I'm in the industry since a long time, and I remember when there was this lawsuit against Sofortüberweisung that they did some screen scraping and they were really dangerous. I mean, that was also in the times when you started, so it was about the same time. And we had Figo here in Germany, and it was, well, how was your journey? How do you see it today? What is your perception today of the possibilities that there are today? How is it changing payments?
But it's kind of weird because we started as the odd one out. We wanted to be contrarian. We wanted to do bold stuff. And then over 10 years, it felt like we become mainstream, which is sometimes hard to accept. I mean, the times 2012 was obviously much more hostile. People seriously said, you're going to go to jail for it. And I remember then we formed the first account-to-account service company group for, well, Zuvor and Figo and a few others across Europe, and say, hey, we need to organize ourselves and start lobbying for this to be regulated, because it was so hostile. And then eventually we had the PSD2 framework that kind of changed it all for this industry in Europe. And now we see how different part of the world is taking different approaches, unregulated in the US, partly regulated in some markets, some Brazil and Australia looking to Europe and say, okay, what did you do good and where did you fail? And how can we make a similar introduction of regulations but more fit for purpose?
Yeah, but it's really interesting when you see let's say, the change, because I remember also, as I did RatePay before, I did Banksware. So I think it's about 10 years ago as well, we were also thinking on how could we do credit decisioning better and easier with data that we get from accounts. At that time, and Andre, he is also sitting here, and me, we were talking about this, how could we integrate them into our product, but at that time it was just too crazy. I think it was too crazy for German consumers that you send them to a link, or that they ask them for access to a bank account. This was just something, I think it was too early. But today, I mean, this is becoming you said it's becoming normal. Do you see it more? How do you see the German consumers, the difference in Germany?
Well, I think that in most markets, people have over the years said it's going to be impossible, it's not going to work. But I think that trust is something where you shouldn't do so much talking, but it's all about the walk every day. Prove to your customers that you're secure, that you're reliable, and the value that you give them is much larger than the value that they give to you. And I think it's been proven over and over and over again that when you get that right, there's no unique market where this will not happen. I mean, Tink is now serving tens of millions of users on a monthly basis that is giving us access to their bank accounts to make a payment, to get a better credit assessment. And they do it because it's worth it, basically.
Does the Visa brand help there to make it more, let's say, that it feels more secure? I mean, we have such a strong brand. Probably Visa and MasterCard are they are the strongest payments brands in the world, yeah? Does this help you, that there is more, that people are less afraid of, let's say, giving access to their bank accounts or access to their data?
Not yet, actually, because we're still not leveraging the Visa brand. I think that's one of a potential future assets to use. For me in B2B sales, that's amazing, because instead of proving that we are honest, we're a startup, we're going to be here 10 years from now, we just say we're part of Visa, and that we can start talking about products immediately. But on the consumer side, we're not using the Visa brand yet.
That could be a game changer. How do you see that?
Well, I think the Visa brand, which is the most valuable brand in the financial services globally, is enormously strong, because it says something. It says you are accepted here, you can pay here, you have no financial risk, and this is like a global currency. So the value is, I think, one of our big strengths. It also stands for a network that allows to pay in split seconds globally, 250 billion times a year. So it's a huge brand, and we have different target groups for this brand. One are employees. We want to get the best employees, and the brand helps, and we have the best employees. Another target group is, of course, end consumers, and that indeed is not yet as relevant for Tink. But then there's also the target group of the B2B area, fintechs, partners, and so on. And there it's extremely helpful to help many German fintechs as well, not only Tink, to export their business models, to globalize in the combination of this strong, trusted brand.
We also work with you, I don't know if you know this, we work with Fintecsystems, so basically we work also...
Happy to hear.
How do you see it, let's say, if we take a look in the future, and we look on these rails, those different rails, and we take the bank accounts, so I think in the future we will see more payments going through bank accounts. How is that changing, and what is coming next here? How do you see that? What's your perception?
I mean, in some markets, you look in the Nordics, you look in the UK and a few others, you see huge adoption of open banking payments, account-to-account payments already. Why? Simply because the infrastructure is working. So the underlying APIs are working, the redirects and the UX flows for consumers are working, and people are getting used to it, and then it becomes kind of a snowball effect. But it's a huge difference between different markets. So if you look at Southern Europe, Italy and Spain, and well, a lot of markets, there's still more to do. But the direction of travel is so clear. Like, it gets better every day. We have now the introduction of PSD3, which is going to make these user experiences even better and more seamless. The direction of travel, as I said, very clear.
Yeah, I mean, you see also more use cases now coming in embedded finance, yeah? Is this also a game changer for you, that all these, let's say, embedded finance startups are raising up because they need your services?
Well, so, I mean, even if when we started the business, we didn't know the term fintech, and I barely know the term embedded finance, but essentially, open banking is powering that movement, right? Because it's all about making credit decisions or interact with your finances, use your bank account without going to the bank. Embed it somewhere else, where the consumer wants to pay, where she wants to get the credit. So obviously that's a movement that, whether we are enabled by that movement or that movement is actually enabled by companies like Tink, but obviously it's something we embrace and enjoy a lot.
I'm really curious how this will evolve. Also, how Visa is maybe, if like in 5 years we still say that you're a cards company, probably not.
I hope so, because it's already not the case anymore. On this multi-rail topic, it's amazing what has happened. I'm since 8 years in this industry, and if I look at the landscape now with merchant solutions, P2P payments, we haven't spoken about crypto yet, direct debit, it's so complex that I can only repeat, we are very happy to have Tink in the family, because we will need Tink to really serve all these segments and all these use cases that there are. So amazingly fascinating world, and we have started it with B2B Connect, with Visa Direct, many other options, and we are now very happy to conclude this with Tink.
It's nice when you say family. Do you feel like it's a family for you?
I certainly do. I mean, we talked about it, hug it to death. It's like a family celebration.
Okay, well, that's a good, let's say, when we come to the end, I think we got a sign that we have to stop. So there are many things that we can talk about, but it's nice. I mean, it's a good example of, let's say, an integration where you feel good as a founder. Yeah, so I had this with RatePay in the Otto group as well, but I think you need distance. Yeah, it's important to have enough distance and not be in the same city. Yeah, you can. No, but I'm really curious what we will see in the next years. And thanks a lot for being my guest here today. Yeah, have a great day. Have a good time here in Germany. Yeah, hopefully everything works out.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.